Are guys who obsess about body count just insecure when it comes to sex and because they have low experience? How true is that statement? Well, this is a post I found on X earlier in the day, and it's from Gregor Gallagher, a famous fitness health coach, Canadian. Personally, I know who he is. I bought one of his coaching programs back in the day when I was like 18, like over 10 years ago. Well, just 10 years now. And I thought, really interesting. Let's see what he has to say. I gave my thoughts. I gave him my in-depth answer, which you can see on screen. I will read it out. And then he actually responded to what I said and said, I agree. So he agrees with what I have to say, but let's see if I agree with what he has to say. Because he's talking about body count and the claim that men who care about it or obsess over it are insecure. And to be fair, there are definitely men who have low self-esteem or their own personal issues who do obsess over the numbers. That is true. But what's being completely missed is men asking about a woman's past in the first place. And I think there's a difference between a guy being obsessed and insecure versus a guy who's vetting to actually protect himself from being with the wrong woman. Body count is definitely not everything, and it doesn't doom someone to die alone. Everyone has a history or a sexual history or a past, but pretending it tells us nothing is also naive. So what matters here is the intention and the healing, and let's see what we have to say. So let's read through Greg's post, go through my comment, and then see what other information we can throw in. And of course, before we start, I want to mention for those of you who are new or you haven't yet, join my free community. You get a one-on-one call with me, access to my audiobook, and there's other upgrades you can do inside the community, but the base entry is free. I'd love to have you in and be part of the community. There's over 200 members now and growing, and I love to have you in. With that said, let's read Greg's post. So he says, guys obsessed with body count, just insecure with sex and low experience. I'm single and have no chips in the game. 2 past partners or 9. Who effing cares, lol. I would just take the more awesome girl. More beautiful, more athletic, sweet, and fun girl to be around. And there's nothing wrong with that. You want to definitely be around a girl who makes you feel good. She's kind, she's fun, fantastic. And at the end of the day, a girl can lie about it if she wants, so it's not even verifiable. Fair enough, men and women alike can lie about their sexual history and past. But there is always caveats. Cracks won't align in their story, you may hear things from other people, they may break down and tell you down the road, or just even when you ask them about their past, there are certain body language cues or verbal cues which give off that they're lying or that you're not getting the full picture, by which point you can make an informed decision. Judge the human being, and if there are signs that she's chaotic, untrustworthy, with your red flags, leave. Fair play, Greg. If she's stunning, sweet, loyal, and treats you amazing, what more do you need? Okay. So my answer here was, Greg, this is a strawman. Caring about a woman's past is not insecurity or obsession. It's about values, pattern recognition in the same way that we evaluate anything long term. If it were insecure to ask someone something so personal that you were going to be intimate with, share your life with, raise children with, create life with, then would that be insecure for at a job interview for them to ask about your previous experience? When you go through the airport and they check your ID or ask you a few personal questions in a checkpoint? Is that insecure as well? Of course not. And this is where, is it insecurity or not? And this cuts both ways, because a woman who is serious about commitment, marriage, she's going to want to ask about your past too, from the get-go. If you've been dating a girl long term and she doesn't ask, she ain't serious about you. If you're not asking her, either you're an avoidant, have a knowledge gap, or you're probably not as serious about her as you think you are. Women with standards don't want a man who's been impulsive, reckless, or sexually undisciplined either. It's not gendered, it's mutual selection. So what are some main reasons that are reasonable for a man to care about a woman's body count? First of all is to health and safety. Sexual history directly affects STIs. Some infections are irreversible and can impact fertility. That's basic responsibility. And quite in fact, if a woman is intelligent, she wants to know the same about you. I mean, some people don't think about these things, but they can have long-lasting effects. I mean, two, emotional and value compatibility. Past behavior reflects patterns. Most people rarely change. They can grow. It takes a lot of effort for someone to really become different and overcome their habits, especially the older they are. So, how someone treats sexual intimacy, and you track back what they tell you over the years they've been an adult, it tells you a lot about how they bond, how impulsive they are, how they view sex, commitment, and self respect. Actions don't lie. So if you are one person who sees sex as sacred and private and selective, and they see it as something casual and do it with whoever you want, you're going to butt heads in terms of your values. That's a real incompatibility that can lead to problems in a relationship. That's not an insecurity. Three, trust and transparency. Openness builds trust. Knowing each other's pasts from the get-go gives people a chance to accept it or walk away before attachments form. This is exactly what I did with my woman. Look, I have a one body count from an ex-relationship. No hookups, nothing, just one. I've had other relationships, but there was one relationship who I gave my virginity to, and it didn't work out. I kept my purity since then, or what's left of it. She said, "Hey, for me, it's the same thing. I've had one." She only had one relationship, and she was intimate with him. When they broke up, that's it. She kept the purity since then. So we both have a one body count. We can relate, understand each other from the context of a relationship. So context and previous similarity in sexual history helps it easier to bond and relate. I can't judge her, she can't judge me. We have the same sexual history. In that regard, it is a factor for compatibility, because there is no way a girl who has let's say a girl has a 10 body count and you are a virgin, can ever relate. In the same way, if a girl is a virgin or has a one body count and you have a 20 body count from 20 hookups, she can't relate to you and you can't to her, and it will break down the fabric of your connection. So it's about truth, trust, and being transparent. 4, avoiding future surprises. Past relationships sometimes don't disappear. Exes in the background that are lingering, co-parents if you're a single dad or mom, emotional baggage, unresolved attachment, trust issues. These things affect relationships. And here's the part most people don't like to admit. The more promiscuous someone has been, just based on statistics and data, man or woman, the more likely they are to deflect, minimize, or hide it and struggle with lust. If you ask early, you often don't even have to get to know them on a date. You save time. Promiscuous people, when it goes for men and women, either they'll be honest and tell you the truth, and like Greg said, but they can lie. Well, here's the key. You ask, "Oh, tell me about your sexual past. How many guys have you been with?" Gets defensive. "That's none of your business. I don't need to tell you." "Oh, I need to think about it. I'm not sure. I'll tell you another time." Thank you for your answer. It tells me everything I need to know. On to the next. That discomfort is the answer. But this means you have to own your own past. Because what Greg said, it's not just all body count. Guys can be insecure. If you are a guy who's excessively, well, you shouldn't be anyway, but if you're masturbating, you're watching porn, you've developed these weird fetishes, or you're hooking up, sleeping around, or you have a massive body count, and you live in this sexual sin, you have no right to point at a woman's sexual past or demand she has one that's clean. Remove the speck out of your own eye before you move the log out of your brother's eyes, Christ says. So you can't judge what you're still doing. Okay, so own your own past too, guys. Integrity goes both ways. But a woman who's a virgin, as I mentioned before, or maybe only has 1 or 2 serious relationships, is very unlikely to want a man who slept with 10 random women through hookups, assuming she has healthy esteem. People want someone with a similar sexual history, shared standards and aligned values. Even my girl said to me, if I had a higher body count than one, she probably wouldn't want to be with me. Same for me, I probably wouldn't want to be with her if she had a higher. We both have the same, we can bond, we can relate, it's both clean enough, we understand each other, we're fine. So then I did say to Greg, you're right about one thing. Body count alone is not everything, but pretending it tells us nothing is just as dishonest. People don't ask about the past to shame, not usually. They ask to choose wisely. Judging pattern is judging the human being. This is how adults make decisions. And as I say to my clients all the time, you're responsible for the quality of woman you choose. And Greg says, yes, I agree. I said, hey, reach out if you ever want any advice. And there were other people going in, blah, blah, blah. But it is an interesting topic because someone can actually have a higher body count, grow, heal, and be far more ready for a relationship than a virgin who has no experience or is emotionally unstable, which is true from that lens, what Greg is saying. And on the flip side, someone with more experience is not automatically damaged. If they've reflected, healed, and changed their patterns, that's fine. because there are virgin men and virgin women who are completely messed up. They're in their sexual fantasy porn land, romance books, all this degeneracy. So there's different ways it can affect pair bonding, right? And the real goal is compatibility, aside from the purity. Like I said with me and my girl, we have the same sexual past, both have one body count. From a relationship in that context, we can bond and relate. You know, she said to me, if my body count came from a hookup, she also wouldn't want to be with me. Likewise, if her body count was from a hookup, I probably wouldn't relate because I've never hooked up with any girl and I've had my chances to, and I always said no. Obviously, I did it in a relationship. As a Christian man, I believe sex was for marriage, but you know, at the time, lustful young, did it in a context of a relationship with a girl I was at least taking the time to know and committed in a committed bond. It wasn't just a one night stand. So I can't relate to a girl who's done those things in the same way she can't relate to a guy who done hookups. But since we both haven't done that, we're compatible. So we're aligned. So that's a factor for you guys to consider. And it's vetting. It's not about judging a girl or being obsessed or being insecure about it. It's, are we aligned enough to build a life together? Can we relate to each other? Can we connect? And you want a girl who's honest and accountable. And at the end of the day, relationships, marriages, raising a family, it's expensive stuff emotionally. And there is a reason why subconsciously you feel an ick or something feels off when you hear that a woman has a sexual history that's wildly vast to yours, or there's a lot of degeneracy. It's no different than a good woman. If she finds out you've been with 20, 30, 40, 50 women and she's got a one body count from a relationship, she's not going to like that. And I've seen lots of guys over the years, they lie to women, they will hide their body count. It will come out later on that they've got all these other sexual problems, or the women want to hide it from the men. Like, everybody knows purity matters. So people shouldn't be shamed out of it. You have a right to protect yourself and be responsible for who you choose. And at least by asking questions, whether they get defensive or not, and being honest about who you are and where you're at regarding your history, you can communicate that from a place of truth. And that's really all I have to say on it. Yeah, I know I have a lot of videos on the channel about body count, but it's just such an interesting topic. And a lot of guys, they do obsess about it, which is what Greg says. They are insecure about it and they act weird. You don't want to be like that. It's not that your past matters in of itself on its own. It's the context. Have you healed? If you have hookups, have you owned it? Have you changed? If you hooked up 2 years ago and you stopped doing it since then, fair enough. A woman is probably going to believe that you've changed. You haven't done it in a while. Same for her. So judge based on where you're at. And yeah, body count is context. It's not a scoreboard. Those are my thoughts. And if you want more advice, you want to learn more about dating, you want to learn more about relationships, I mean, you can get my free ebook. You can download it. Again, join the community. As I said, there's a lot of value in here that can help change you, help you grow and fill in your knowledge gap. And with that said, guys, enjoy the video. Let me know your thoughts down below. Man or woman, I'd love to hear some thoughts from the ladies. And with that said, see you all in the next one. Have a wonderful day.